Biden to call for major Supreme Court reforms, including term limits, at Civil Rights Act event Monday. President Joe Biden is set to call for major Supreme Court reforms Monday, according to a White House official, a move that would make him the first sitting president in generations to back seismic changes to the way the nation's highest court operates. Biden's election year push comes amid deepened popularity for the high court but stands little chance of going anywhere. He will call for a constitutional amendment stripping the president of immunity for crimes committed while in office, term limits for Supreme Court justices, and a binding code of conduct for the High Court, the White House official said. Biden's announcement, which he is set to make at an event in Austin, Texas, commemorating the Civil Rights Act, follows this monumental decision by the Supreme Court granting presidents full immunity for some actions taken while in office and after a title frivolous sabbath to accepting vacations and gifts from wealthy conservative donors. Democrats on the campaign trail frequently point to the Supreme Court's conservative majority solidified by former President Donald Trump to underscore what they see as the high stakes of the 2024 election. The White House official said Biden will call for an amendment dubbed the No One is Above the Law Amendment, which will state the Constitution does not confer any immunity from federal criminal indictment, trial, conviction, or sentencing by virtue of previously serving as president. In what would be another change to the Constitution, Biden will also call for term limits for Supreme Court justices, whose are vilified appointments. The reforms Biden is proposing would require congressional approval, which would be difficult to achieve before his term ends, as Republicans control the House and Democrats have a slim majority in the Senate. The constitutional amendment, meanwhile, would require a more complicated process involving the states that seems nearly impossible to succeed. The reforms, which will face heavy resistance, are meant to restore trust and accountability when it comes to the presidency and the United States Supreme Court, the White House official said. Can reported this month that Biden was seriously considering endorsing major Supreme Court reforms, actions that liberal lawmakers and groups have been pushing in recent years. The Monday announcement will come more than 3 years after Biden created a commission to study structural changes at the Supreme Court, including term limits and proposals to increase the number of justices. The group submitted its report to the White House in late 2021, but the administration did not pursue any of the ideas discussed in the document. The debate over proposed structural changes at the Supreme Court has become deeply partisan, with Republicans widely opposed, but the issue has drawn renewed attention after it was reported in May that controversial flags were previously hoisted on properties owned by conservative Justice Samuel Alito. Both of the flags were flown by rioters during the January 6, 2021, attack on the U.S. Capitol, though Alito has denied any connection to that incident and has said his wife hoisted them for different reasons, including a spat with neighbors. Meanwhile, the court handed down several controversial decisions this summer that drew sharp criticism on the left, including the stunning 6-3 ruling that granted Trump broad immunity from criminal prosecution over his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Last year, the High Court adopted its own code of conduct, but the measure was heavily criticized by ethics experts because it included no way to enforce its requirements. Liberal Justice Elena Kagan defended the code of conduct in remarks last week, but also conceded it would be more effective if it included an enforcement mechanism. Biden's proposal comes as polling indicates support for the court is hovering near historic lows. A Marquette Law School poll in May found that 61% of Americans disapprove of the job the court is doing. Just 4 years ago, the same poll found the court had a 66% approval rating. Democrats have sought to use public disapproval of the court, particularly its 2022 ruling overturning Roe v. Wade, to drive voters. Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, now the presumptive Democratic nominee, have made that decision a central part of their campaign arguments, hoping the issue of abortion rights will galvanize voters heading into November. Biden, a former chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee who has resisted calls from his party to expand the court, has become increasingly critical of its makeup. He has described the Supreme Court as out of kilter and has warned of the impact a second Trump presidency could have on the nation's highest court. Biden, who is making his first trip since bowing out of the 2024 race, will call for the changes at the Presidential Library honoring President Lyndon B. Johnson, who ended his own re-election bid in 1968. Biden will also use his remarks to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, the landmark legislation that cemented Johnson's legacy.